Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Come On Shine, and today I'm going to explain one of the most beautiful novel, Pride and Prejudice, that I have already announced on YouTube. But before going to video, I'd like you to please subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon. So let's get started with the introduction part. So Pride and Prejudice, a romantic novel by Jane Austen, published anonymously in 3 volumes since 1813. A classic of English literature, written with incisive wit and superb character delineation. Pride and Prejudice is set in rural England at the turn of 19th century, and this novel exposes the damaging social norms. Now let's talk about the major themes of Pride and Prejudice. So first of all, a woman's reputation. Second is overcoming obstacles for true love. Then social class distinction, class status. Next is the strength of family networks. Last but not the least is integrity and behavior. And guys, I want you to find these themes which event can be suited for these themes when I'll explain the story. Now let's jump into the character list. But before going to character list, I want you to disclose something that this story is mostly based on a family of Mr. and Mrs. Bennet in England who have 5 daughters, and their family, especially Mrs. Bennet, was very much worried about the marriage of her daughters in a wealthy family. Now let's talk about the character list. First of all, Mr. Bennet, who is matured and understanding person, whereas Mrs. Bennet is a kind of complaining and little bit immaturity she shows in the novel. And the eldest daughter is Jane Bennet, who is beautiful and has a sweet personality. She is kind and patient, and she chooses always to see the best in people. And now comes the second daughter and the protagonist of the novel, Elizabeth Bennet. She is the most intelligent and quick-witted, and one of the most well-known female characters in English. She is often referred to as Eliza or Lizzie. So I am going to use Lizzie name in the novel. And guys, here I will add male character, Mr. Fitzwilliam, who is not in Bennet's family but the lover of Elizabeth Bennet. And Mr. Darcy is the son of wealthy, well-established family and the master of great estate of Pemberley. And the whole story revolves around their love. Now the third daughter is Mary Bennet, who loves to read the books and gives lecture on morality. Number 4 daughter is Catherine Bennet, and the 5th daughter is Lydia Bennet. She is gossipy, immature and self-involved. Now this was all about Mr. and Mrs. Bennet's family who lives in Longbourn named village. And just at some distance of Longbourn village, there is a place named Netherfield Park, where a new and rich family, Charles Bingley with his 2 sisters, one is married and other is unmarried, comes to stay there. And Fitzwilliam Darcy was the friend of Charles Bingley who also comes there to live. Okay? Though Fitzwilliam Darcy was richer than Charles Bingley, but Darcy was very much an egoistic person. He was always staying in his attitude. Okay? And after a few days, there's a party organized in the village where Charles Bingley with sister and Mr. Darcy comes, and Mr. and Mrs. Bennet also invited in that party, okay? And Charles Bingley was rich. So Mrs. Bennet wanted him to attract towards one of her daughters to get married. And this party was the best occasion to get together of both the families. And actually, Charles Bingley attracted towards the eldest daughter, Jane Bennet, and they danced together, means the bud of love started growing between each other. After some while, Bingley comes to Darcy and says, "Why you sat alone? Come dance with Jane's sister Lizzie." Then Mr. Darcy replied, "She is tolerable but not handsome enough to tempt me. I am in no humour at present to give consequence to young ladies who are slighted by other men. You had better return to your partner and enjoy her smiles, for you are wasting your time with me." And unfortunately, Lizzie heard this conversation, And this attitude of Mr. Darcy made a bad character picture in Lizzie's mind. And the title Pride refers to Mr. Darcy and Prejudice refers to Lizzie, Elizabeth Bennet. And there, Mr. Bingley's sisters also impressed with Jane and invited her on dinner. And Jane attended this dinner with Lizzie. But it rained when they were coming back from dinner, so it rained very heavily. And Jane got sick, so they had to stay there for 1 week. And in this week, Jane and Bingley's love was on peak. But on the other side, Lizzie still hates Mr. Darcy, and Mr. Darcy also ignores Lizzie. But soon Mr. Darcy realized that Lizzie is not a kind of common girl. She is also beautiful, and gradually he attracts towards her. Okay? Gradually Mr. Darcy attracted towards Lizzie. But now the twist comes into this story that Mr. Bingley's sister, Catherine Bingley, doesn't like Lizzie. And the reason was jealous. Means Caroline was in love with Mr. Darcy and she saw Mr. Darcy is attracted towards Lizzie, so she started hating Lizzie. But here, though Mr. Darcy was attracted towards Lizzie, but somewhere his ego comes in between them. He thinks that he is very rich and whether Lizzie would be suitable for him or not. And now enters the new character in the story, Mr. Collins and Lady Catherine. Mr. Collins was the distant cousin. He was to inherit the property of Mr. and Mrs. Bennet family and he loves Lizzie. But Lizzie doesn't like him. So Lady Catherine says that she made Collins the personage or the dean of an estate. Colin would keep Lizzie happy. Means she was convincing Bennet family to get married them, okay? But Lizzie just rejected the proposal of Collins. And there comes the new character, George Wickham, who was at first a gentleman. But then he becomes villain. And he is a member of the military. And what actually Mr. Wickham did, that he started misleading Lizzie against Mr. Darcy. Though Lizzie already doesn't like Mr. Darcy, and now Mr. Wickham started adding salt to her wound. Okay? And gradually, Lizzie, however, attracts towards Mr. Wickham. And there Mr. Collins comes again in Longbourn and marries to Lizzie's close friend because Lady Catherine pressurized him to get married with anyone else, okay? So Mr. Collins married Lizzie's best friend. And suddenly a breaking news comes to Jane that she received a letter written by Bingley's two sisters where it was mentioned that they are moving to London permanently. And Charles Bingley will now marry to Mr. Darcy's sister. This news just broke her from within and now Lizzie started hating Mr. Darcy more, okay? And after a few days, Lizzie went to a party organized by Lady Catherine. And Lady Catherine has an indirect relationship with Mr. Darcy and Mr. Darcy was also invited in that party. So Lizzie and Darcy again meet together and there Mr. Darcy proposed Lizzie. But Lizzie rejects immediately. Why? She said that you ruined Mr. Wickham's job and my sister's marriage also broke due to you. At that time Mr. Darcy didn't say anything. But he was upset and Mr. Darcy handed a letter to Lizzie. In that letter, he mentioned everything, that he didn't break Jane's marriage and Wickham tried to seduce and elope with his younger sister. So he behaved unfair to Mr. Wickham, okay? Now every story was clear to Lizzie. What had happened actually, why Mr. Darcy did like this, okay? And by watching this, Lizzie started attracting towards Mr. Darcy a little bit. Then again, a new character enters in the novel. These are Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner. They are uncle and auntie of Bennet's family, Bennet's daughter, with whom Lizzie goes on a vacation.
vacation to Pemberley.
There Mr. Darcy also available and gave them so respect, which brought Lizzie and Darcy so close. But meanwhile, she receives a news of Lizzie's younger sister, Lydia's elopement with Mr. Wickham, and no one knows where they moved. So Lizzie
Again returns to her parents.
and after some day, Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner disclosed that where is Lydia? But again the news comes that Wickham is not agreed to stay with Lydia now because he wants some money, and after few days that money has been paid. But Bennet family didn't know who did this, who paid this money. Okay? And when Lydia came back to her family in Longbourn, she revealed that Mr. Darcy paid that money to Wickham. Now Lizzie is so much impressed with this act of Darcy, and they got married. And then Jane and Bingley's issue also sorted out, and they also got married. And this novel comes to an end here.
So guys, I hope you like this novel. I will meet you with my next video. Till then, bye. Keep loving literature.